All right. Well, I want to welcome everyone again to today's webinar. I want to let you know that I really did a great deal of pondering about this webinar and the information that would be most relevant to you around this subject of marketing with confidence. And what I can tell you is that I've heard thousands, literally thousands of stories in my time of leading workshop on today's modern marketing. And through those small business owners and directors of nonprofits, et cetera, there's been quite a group of people that I've talked to, as well as those that I've had the honor to coach up close and personal. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, and the reason that I wanted to do this webinar on this topic is the key ingredient that is usually missing above and beyond even the technology, that might be hard to believe, is the whole piece of confidence to get the job done. And what is confidence, after all, but a really strong mindset full of clarity and belief? And while there are many of you joining me today that I have not had the pleasure of meeting prior to this very moment, knowledge and confidence is a key denominator that has brought us all together today. And there's a lot to learn when it comes to today's marketing, without a doubt, as we all know. And it's one of the reasons that we created our Marketing Mastery program here in the Victory Circles, my organization, to really handle the aspects over the course of 1 year. And I'll share more with that later, and I promise you right up the front, this is not a big sales pitch. I'm not that kind of a gal, but I will give you some steps to take if that's what you would like to do at the end of our time together here. The truth is, when you are squarely on your path and confidently pumped up and busting to the brim with self-confidence, there is little that can stop you. Period. Its confidence is huge. So today, my task in our time together is to give you some skill sets to assist you in getting to a new level of confidence, whatever that looks like for you. Confidence that will assist you in making the difference by marketing your product and services to an audience that is waiting for you to share your message. And I know that sometimes it's hard to believe with all the messages that are out there, but it's true. And even with all that's out there, we're all still hungry to have the answers to our questions and, the answers to our pain points along the way. So we're going to leave the beautiful Boulder Flatirons behind and head on into the rest of this. And before we get into all this great content that I'm going to share with you today, I wanted to give those of you who don't know me the confidence of trusting why I'm qualified to share the information I'm about to share with you today. First of all, I want you to know that I absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, love the work that I do. I feel blessed to work with so many awesome entrepreneurs and small business owners who are putting everything they have into their businesses. I also work with a lot of nonprofits as well who need to work just as hard raising the needed revenues to keep their organizations thriving. As a 30-year-plus entrepreneur and small business veteran, I started my first business way back in 1985 and successfully sold it for a nice profit after 16 years. And during those years, I also co-founded the Downtown Business Association in Louisville, Colorado, an organization which I'm really happy to say, even though I'm not involved with it any longer, it still remains vibrant today. And I've really just been an advocate for the success of small businesses who have always been my clients over all these years, no matter what business that I was in. And after some bumps along the road and another business under my belt, I became a business coach back in 2001, and I've dedicated my work to helping small businesses get past the hurdles that are placed before us. And boy, oh boy, as many of you here with me today know, they can be many. I also at that time started writing a piece called The Victory Letter. It's an inspirational blog before the term blog existed that I sent out via email before I was even aware of the term email marketing. And I did it each Monday morning as a reminder to myself and my readers to stop and pay attention to all the victories of our lives, both the big ones and the small ones. Monday seemed the best time to send it out and start the week with a positive note. And I'm really happy to share with you, it makes me a little emotional as I start to say this, that this coming Monday is the 15th year anniversary of the Victory Letter. It just makes me so proud that I have been able to do it all these years. I've had the opportunity and the lives that have been touched each Monday morning over all these years. And if you're currently not a subscriber, I highly encourage you to hop to our website at victorycircles.com/victory letter to subscribe. And I think there is a hot link that, there's a hot link that I just put up in the chat. If you want to just use that, you can do that. The Victory Letter changed my world in so many ways, including my life as a writer. So if any of you during the course of what we talk about today say, oh, this is well and good, but I can't write, I wasn't a writer when I started this journey either. But it made me keep a writing date with myself at a minimum of once per week. And from that, I've published 2 books, and I'm currently working on my 3rd book right now. I love doing books over the summertime because it's my most creative time. In 2006, I founded the Victory Circles, an organization that's dedicated to empowering entrepreneurs to climb new heights through mastermind groups combined with coaching programs. At the core of the organization is our 12 mastermind principles that drives the work we do, which I wrote about in my 2nd book, Victory One Moment at a Time, Unlocking the Power of the Mastermind. The second principle of those 12 principles is self-confidence. Yes, it's that important that we spend an entire month right out of the gate each year in February, as a matter of fact, looking at ways to increase and maintain this important element that's so critical not only towards our success, but to our ultimate joy in the process of getting there. And that's one of the things I'm on a big crusade about. And actually what is the subject matter for my 3rd book. It's like enjoying the process, right? We get so immersed in these to-do lists and everything else that we have to do that we stop enjoying the process. And I just know from my own experience along my way that I wasted a lot of time worrying too much and trying to get the proverbial to-do list taken care of. It was about 5 years ago that I saw the beast that marketing had become for so many small businesses, yet at the same time how super cool marketing had become, that small business could play in the game like never before against larger business through the great online tools that had come to life right here in our lifetime. I mean, my daughter and I, during the summer solstice last night, were talking about just the changes in technology in my lifetime. It's just been pretty amazing. And while I get it that they can be overwhelming, when you find the right combination for your business, it's just so powerful. And I have felt the many rewards from these marketing efforts I'm about to share with you in my own business. So I'm walking my talk here and not just talking theory, so that you know that. I decided that enough was enough and that I would take what I already knew and really dig in to become an expert as well in this area of business. And it's been quite a ride in the learning experience. I'm learning every single day, as each of you are as well. And as I worked in the trenches with so many, I learned so much. I've seen many a tear shed. Some of them have been my own in frustration and fear by the small business owners I've worked with and helped them to get past it and get the upper hand on this thing called marketing. I teamed up with Constant Contact, the email marketing people who are also a co-sponsor of this workshop today. And over the course of the last 4 years, I've worked with them in this capacity. I was a customer previous to that for 12 years. I've given workshops to literally, again, thousands of small business owners, their staff, and nonprofit organizations as well. And the good news is that what I've seen to be true is that with the right mindset and tools in your toolbox, you can make this modern marketing work for you and your business without an excessive amount of time and money. But of course, it will require both to be sure. There's no escaping that piece. It's just finding the right system for your business. And right, the big overall one-size-fits-all doesn't always work so well. So what you need is a realistic plan and a commitment to consistently, and consistently is such a key word, to work on your marketing. And while social media is the ever-changing piece that can make us the most unconfident, right? Like what happened today is going to change tomorrow. Remember, it's only a part of the whole big picture. So I'm not going to really be spending a whole huge chunk of time on social media today, but just to remember that social media is more about the social proof today that we're indeed a viable business. And with that, I would also say, as you see my social media up here on your screen, if you'd like to learn more about me, I've just told you a whole bunch, but if you'd like to learn more, see some cool pics, I'm loving Instagram these days. I encourage you to go over there and to whatever social media platform you hang out on and visit with me over there. Okay, so that is who I am. One other thing that I want to say about confidence, right? Confidence matters. And again, I think we've made that clear. There was a commercial at one point in time that said, never let them see you sweat. And by confidently doing anything, even when you're initially unsure of steps that you're taking, anything is possible. I can remember my first webinar, can I say the words, webinar, that I did a few years ago, and my gosh, it was just sweating bullets. And now, I get a little nervous at the beginning of these because, I'm praying the technology will work and all of that. You never know. But, you just get more confident and more confident and more confident, know what you have to do and learn from your mistakes and move forward. So our biggest goal in marketing is to build trust in your business and organization from that very first impression right through your ongoing interactions with your customers. And it's so important to remember your current customers in your marketing plan. In fact, for an established business, you should be spending 90% of your marketing efforts geared towards your current clients. It will bring you, and I promise you this, many rewards. Even with the victory letter, while I love it that so many other people read it, what matters to me the most is that my clients are reading it and it's helping them with the materials that we're already working on together. Customer satisfaction takes you far. I actually started my career in customer service, and so it's something that's at the core of what I believe, especially when it comes to getting organic referrals from people who just love you, do that know, like, and trust. And along those lines, you really want to focus your marketing efforts to the point of, again, not just acquiring customers, but you want to create raving fans. And if any of you don't know Seth Godin, he is a brilliant marketeer. I highly recommend him. He actually does a blog every single day and has done it for many, many, many years. And from that, he's actually created, I think he's up to 19 books now, but one of them that you see on your screen is Tribes. And I highly recommend it. It's an easy read. You can probably get it read in about an hour or two, and just really talks about this whole idea of creating raving fans. And, we have another list of great books on our website, and I'll tell you more about that, but I am a huge reader, and I'm now starting to listen to a lot of audiobooks, too, and it's a great way to keep up to date with everything that's going on. So definitely recommend Tribes and really building raving fans. So here's our objectives. We're going to talk about the 5-minute marketing plan and why planning is so important. We're going to talk about the tools that you're going to need to get that done. And then we're going to talk about what's working and what isn't, and then next steps on where we need to go from here. So let's talk about the plan. Why a plan? Because we're naturally more confident when we know the what, the why, and the how of something we're working on or towards. And if you think about any kind of system that you have in your business, you have a plan to implement the things that you do, and you just move forward much more confidently. And it also helps to get everyone on your team on the same page as you. And but with that said, I want to say for any of you that are out there working alone, I'm going to request that you just stop doing that. Find others to team up with, and it doesn't mean you have to necessarily hire people as employees. It just means that you need people around you who can assist you to get it all done, to give you that moral support. It's one of the reasons I founded the Victory Circles, because the whole mastermind process and coming together with other entrepreneurs of a like mind are so important. You just cannot, and I'll tell you, after over 30 years of being an entrepreneur, it's one thing I absolutely know for sure is that you cannot do it alone. And most people don't do a plan because that in itself can seem overwhelming, right? I don't have time to do a plan. What are you talking about? So to get you warmed up, I'm going to share with you a couple of elements from what we utilize as the 5-minute marketing plan here in the Victory Circles, and it's something that served myself and my clients really well. And towards the end of the call, I'll give you some info on how you can dig more into this plan. But because of time constraints today, and I want to get into the tools so much, I'm just going to go over a couple of the elements of the 5-minute marketing plan. And it's something that I acquired during an interview that I had with Jay Conrad Levinson a number of years ago. And Jay, for those of you who don't know him, was known as the father of guerrilla marketing, and someone who I was honored and privileged to have as a mentor along my way. Excuse me, I'm going to take a little drink of water here. Jay believed, and I've seen it to be true, that by focusing on the answers to the questions that create your plan, including the two I'm about to ask you, that you'll have the basis for a very powerful marketing plan. It doesn't have to be complicated is what I'm trying to tell you here. All right, so we'll get to the very first of the two questions I'm going to ask you, and that is, who is your target audience? And I would say in the areas of pushback that I get from small business owners, this is the number one thing that creates a bit of a panic in thinking that you might have to eliminate people from the list of possible customers. We can tend to want to do business with everyone. However, here's the deal. It can be the source of a lot of wasted time and money, especially in today's world of engagement when it comes to marketing. If we all had really deep pockets, perhaps we could market to the world, but most of us don't. So we have to get very focused on who we're marketing to, because you don't want to waste your time, let me put it that way, engaging with people who are not interested in what you're talking about. And I mean, that's the great part about social media, is you can really start to hone in on who that target audience is, and you can fully engage then with those who are interested in what you're talking about. Think about your top 10 customers, those customers who bring in the most revenue, consistently work with your company or organization, and then in a good way, because there's some that maybe sometimes in not such a good way, but that you enjoy working with them. And they're the ones that bring you the least amount of grief or problems because they're such a good fit for your product and services. And that's one thing we can tend to forget about when we are doing business, and the more we spend time on dealing with customers who aren't a good fit, the more time we lose in the process. So of your top 10 customers, I'd love for you to write down the elements. So once you get that list of your top 10, again, the ones you just love working with and they get you, then start writing down the geographics. Where are they primarily geographically located? What's their demographics? Do they have an age group, a revenue group? Just really breaking that down. And the more you can break it down and get uber specific about this, the more you will really land on a perfect target audience. And I want to be crystal clear as you look at this question. And it doesn't mean by any means that you can't do business with anyone outside your target audience. So, for example, 2 of my target market demographics are women entrepreneurs who are doing under $1 million a year in revenue. Now, does this mean I don't do business with men or people who do over $1 million in revenue? Absolutely, I do business with them. However, my marketing and my message and the majority of my clients are not pointed toward them. Though it's interesting, and I've had many men who have also been on my victory letter for years and years and years. So it's really just, there's some people who get your message as you go. So then let's go to the next question that I want you to ask yourself, and another one that's on the top of the list of what people kind of tend to ignore, and that is, what is your marketing budget? And it's not about, I'll tell you what it isn't right out of the gate, and it isn't about what is in your checking account at this particular time. It always seems to consist of, money available right now that I can throw at my marketing, right? So I want you to think differently as you think about a marketing budget. And to do marketing right, you have to plan not only on the money, but the time of that, right? And especially in today's online world, and so much of our time is taken. So the figure to use that enables you to get the best ROI for your marketing is 10% of your gross annual revenue. Okay, so 10% of your gross annual revenue. And so in other words, here's a little simple math for you. If you want to achieve $100,000 in gross sales, you need to spend about $10,000 in your marketing efforts over the course of the year. That's where your marketing budget gets planned out. Now, as I say that, a lot of people's jaws drop, and like $10,000, that's like a dream. But if you really want your business to be a success, you have to bite the bullet and do this. And again, as I said earlier, I don't do any of this by just theory. I found the huge difference in my business when I started adhering to this. And while it's scary and, sometimes you feel like you're at the blackjack table, not that I'm much of a big gambler that way because I gamble so much in my day-to-day life, but what I'll tell you is that it makes all the difference in the world. And it will help you to make the important decisions, such as how much do we spend on our online tools, like your website, right? Again, I know people throw a lot of money at websites, or they don't throw enough money. How do I know how much money should I be spending on a website? If you've got that budget in mind, then you know how much that you should implement in that area. And I would just say caution to the wind on that, because I do see people throwing too much money. It's usually either overspending or underspending when it comes to your website. And it's your website, if we're not going to get into that a whole lot today, but it's a huge, huge piece of what that first impressions part when people come to do anything with you. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. You might be looking at social media advertising, and even offline things such as business cards, brochures, direct mail, and, again, so just putting all of that under the blanket of your marketing budget. And in this equation, as I mentioned, keep the time factor in mind. So if you're like, I can't afford to have anybody do this, I'm just doing it all myself, right? Has anybody ever hit themselves over the head with their computer trying to get a website developed, or, figuring out one social media platform or another? What I want you to think about, let's say you normally charge $150 an hour for your services. You need to remember that when you're doing other things, it's costing you that much money. And I know we have the belief as entrepreneurs that, I just don't have the money, so I have to do it myself. And I get that. But again, if you're continuously spending so much of your valuable time that on something that you're not very good at, it isn't a strength that you hold. It's one of the things we talk about in our Marketing Mastery program is the strengths piece of it and getting crystal clear on what you're good at and what you're not and having other people do the rest. It's really important to look at this. And it usually pays off in more ways than just giving you back your time, which I don't know about you guys, but it's also awesome when I get my time back. But it's someone who's really good at it and can do it better than you could possibly have done it. Let's say web development. There's a lot of ins and outs with web development. I believe with web development, you should empower yourself and understand and be using a platform that you can do your updates and all of that easily, but it doesn't mean you need to know HTML code by any stretch of the imagination. And also remember in that budgeting that your website is never done, right? It's this living thing, and in today's marketing world, you have to really remember that. And then again, of course, there's the constant changes in technology. Your content and the development in your company's website should be changing with that, right? You should be innovating. You should have new products, all of that people have a reason to come back to your website. And I can't tell you the countless conversations that I've had with people who've said, I know we should change our site, but I spent so much money on it that we just can't change it now, right? Does anybody relate to that? And I was right there with you. I mean, I remember at one point spending over $8,000 on our website only to be told that the technology a year down the road was totally outdated and I needed to do something else, right? The pain of it all. So, it's the same as knowing that your product or service isn't working and you don't fix it, right? You have to fix it. Your website is that first impression, and it should be in your budget to keep that in mind. So as you start to make decisions about the direction of your marketing efforts, keep these dollars in mind. And really, I go back, there's a whole methodology around it, so I can't get into it in too much detail. But most people, I will say, lose confidence because they don't have enough money to get the job properly done. End of story. We're kind of limping along, right? So I'm here to tell you that with the right planning and attitude, you can get it done without having to do it alone. I promise you this. All right. So with that basic idea of your target audience and the budget, let's really dig into the bulk of our conversation here today, and that is looking at the tools that you're going to need to get the job done. And the first one is email marketing. Now, this may raise all kinds of emotions inside of you depending on where you are at in your attempts in using this foundational modern marketing tool. But did you know that email is the number one app used on mobile devices and that half of emails are opened on them? Now, according to the statistics that have been done, more people today own a cell phone than a toothbrush. Every time I share that, I'm like, I don't know exactly how they came up with that data, but they did, and I really don't think I want to know how they came up with it, but there it is. And remember, when your tools are working properly, that the first impressions matter. And when someone opens your email in their inbox, which, again, is more than 50% of the time done on their cell phone, you hopefully are connecting with them in a way because you've gotten the permission to be there in their inbox. We're going to talk a bit about that, and what they see and read is going to determine what they do next, right? We choose an email message based on who it's from, the subject line, and possibly the preview text that appears in your email inbox. Then we give it a 2-second glance to decide if it's worth our time. If it is, we keep it and read it and possibly even do the call to action it requires. And sometimes we even share it, forward it to someone, which is the real gold in all of it, right? Whether it's social media or email, sharing is, basically giving your blessings to this content and saying it's really good. But if not, we hit the delete key and send the email to the trash folder. And if it totally doesn't relate to anything in our lives, or we don't know, like, or trust the sender, we unsubscribe from receiving any further messages from them. And over the course of our conversation here today, I'm going to share with you the key elements to make good first, second, and on impressions in that inbox. Chances are that you'll want them to read your newsletters or announcements and take a next step. Maybe you want them to visit your website, register for an event, donate to your nonprofit, or try a new product, or simply become engaged with the work your organization does, and that's the place that I recommend that you start. And sometimes it can happen quickly, and sometimes it can be the building block for a long-term relationship. The average touch point someone needs today to do business with you is a whopping 27 times. Now, it can be sooner. It just depends on market demand, your relationship, etc. This is where a beautiful, professional-looking email that is quick and easy to read and designed to drive action in a non-pushy or salesy way is crucial. People make snap judgments about whether or not to read your emails based on a quick glance because all of us get about 150 emails on average in our inbox every day. So the competition's out there. We just have to be competitive in a good way. So email marketing defined at its base level. It's delivering professional communications, making sure that we're getting great-looking branded emails with no grammatical and spelling errors into the inbox. With that said, don't become such a perfectionist. I've sent out a typo or two along my 15 years, let me tell you. But, you want to keep that to a minimum. You want to send it to that interested target audience. This is so important because someone can easily report our emails as spam, again, or delete them, etc. So we never want to be the spammer, right? And it contains information that the recipient finds valuable. Just because you have permission to communicate to someone doesn't mean you will be successful in your email marketing efforts with them. You need to be sending the right information to the right people on your email lists, okay? All right, so I want to show you the difference between a regular email that can come from your Outlook, Gmail, Yahoo, etc., and one sent through an email service provider such as Constant Contact, right? Which one would you prefer getting? In this quick scroll-through world, especially on mobile devices, the one on the right is obviously much more compelling to want to actually go and read the information. And, everything from your logo and colors and graphics and all of that, it all just comes together as important text. So really keep that in mind as we go through this information here today. So let's take a look at some statistical data because I know there's some of you listening to my voice that want nothing but the facts, man. And so this was derived from Litmus, the Direct Marketing Association, POO, and Forrester Research, and Salesforce.com. And 88% of the people regularly check email on their smartphones. Okay, even more than social media or videos. 91% of people check their email daily. Think of how many times a day you check your email. Email is reliable. Email gets delivered 90+% of the time. And an interesting fact is that Facebook reaches just 2% of its fans. And I know for a fact there's people that are my friends or whatever, and I'm like, how come I never see their stuff, right? And I want to see it. So it's much more reliable, and email works. Email marketing has 3 times the conversion rate as social media, and that's why I'm spending so much time talking about it here today. For every $1 spent on email marketing, there's a $44.25 average ROI, and of course that's going to change, depending on your product, service, etc. I mentioned before the importance of marketing to your current customers, and here's some compelling reasons to do so. Repeat customers buy more. 81% say they are more likely to make additional purchases online or in your store as a result of targeted emails or wherever it is you sell your product. Word of mouth marketing. Consumers are 71% more likely to make a purchase based on social media referrals, right? So we trust the people that we like. We trust what they have to say. And then finally, email works. 82% of B2C, which is business to consumer, small businesses say that loyal customers are the number one way to grow their business. And I can tell you without a doubt, I know that to be true, because email is such a great way to keep people engaged that you have already they've already purchased your product, your service, or maybe donated to your cause. They've invested and you've invested money to acquire them. So why wouldn't you want to keep nurturing those people? So it's something I'm so passionate about and believe in so deeply. So really keep that in mind in your efforts. And it's so much funner working with the people you already know too, right? I mean, it's like I think of my clients, and it's like just when I see them coming in on my caller ID, et cetera, it just gives me warm and fuzzies all over. So, that's what we want to be able to do most of the time. So let's talk about time savings as well, because we're all a little short on time, and how email marketing allows you to automate best practices, as it's called. You're able to create a master template. It reinforces your brand identity. It emails it to the addressed recipient only. Nothing's worse these days than getting I can't even believe it when I still get it, with 50 other email addresses that somebody has sent that just allowed me to be spammed, right, because they've done it. And it allows you to obey the law, right, because there are laws, CAN spam laws. You can go to CAN, C-A-N, S-P-A-M. I think I'm going to talk about that here in a second too. CAN spam, and you will be able to get a better idea about that. So there's really 5 elements to confidence with this email marketing as your base. Number 1 is to grow a healthy permission-based list, and we're going to dive into each of these. To create great content using a content calendar. Brand your business throughout all platforms. Number 4 is to get your email opened, and number 5 is to track your results. So another question that I'm asked a lot is, how do I grow my email list? And let me be perfectly clear here by saying there's 2 ways that you don't. Number 1 is purchasing a list from someone, even if they say it's okay, you have my permission. It's not okay. It's actually against the law. Or number 2 is what I call slapping people on your list by scooping up cards or lists from a networking event or trade show or some kind of event that you've attended. Just because someone put their business card in your fishbowl does not, unless you specifically have said it by the fishbowl, that you're going to start including them on your mailing list. What you do have to do is to ask and to get their permission, because with each of us getting those 150 emails in our inboxes that I talked about, we will simply delete you if you have not asked our permission, period. I mean, some we might let slide by for a while, but we don't read them, right? And eventually we get rid of them for one reason or another. We've grown much less tolerant, and I don't care how much someone says that it's okay to use their list. If someone doesn't know you and your company, they simply do not know you, no matter how good someone's list is for them. There's a lot more things you can do in joint partnerships in using somebody's list, but to just blatantly use someone's list, not a good idea. There's really a fine art to it, and again, something we spend an entire month on in our Marketing Mastery program. So here is how we do ask. You ask for permission to send them email. So we might ask it in person, and we'll dive a little deeper into that in a minute, but you ask for that permission. You let them know what content to expect, and what follow-through to do. So you let them know what's coming up. I send my victory letter out once a week. People have come to know that, and I don't really go outside that parameter. Maybe once a quarter, if that, I might send, if something event is going on or something, I might send it, but I stick to that pretty religiously. Offer an opt-out. So let them know that they could easily unsubscribe in every email, which is one of the advantages of using a service like Constant Contact. It's all automatically built into your template. You don't even have to do anything about it. Post your privacy policy. It adds credibility, right? So people know you're a credible person, because I think that's the thing we're most afraid of, is that somebody bad is going to get our email address. Don't overwhelm people. Respect the privilege of communicating and plan strategically. Do not send more than once a week. Some people feel, oh my gosh, once a week is just a little too much. I find it to be the perfect blend, especially if you do it on a regular basis. People know Monday morning they're going to get something from me, right? So if you pick Tuesday afternoon and continuously do that, you'll be amazed at what will happen. And then follow the compliance guidelines, clear and obvious permission on your sign-up form, clearly identify who you are and your organization. You have to include a valid mailing address and phone number on every email that you send out in a bulk manner like that. And I actually have a P.O. box because I do run my business from my home, and I just don't want everybody knowing my home address that I send stuff out to, so I have a P.O. box just for that. And again, informing them they can unsubscribe at any time. It's easy as a click of the button, and have a process to record express consent. So, really make this an effort that you can utilize. Asking on your website. So I just want to take you through a really quick little scenario here, that if somebody subscribes to the Victory Letter, as you see in one, they can either do it on each of our page. We have some kind of a subscribe, and then we also have a pop-up that I actually think is deactivated right now because we're changing it around a little bit, but you can also do a pop-up window, which is annoying but effective. And from that, they go to number 2, which is they fill in their email address. I recommend getting their first name, last name. I like to know who's on my list. And from that, what the system will do is number 3, they will send out an automatic welcome letter saying thanks. We've all probably seen it. Thanks for coming to our list. And not exactly in those words, but more compelling. And also, again, letting them know what they can expect. Here's what you'll be getting from us in the future. If you only send once a month, let them know that. And we'll be doing updates or whatever it is that you're planning on doing. Be crystal clear about that piece of it. All right? And then also ask over on social media, and pointedly, this is from Facebook, where you can ask people to opt in as well, keeping in mind that I always say that likes, are nice, but they don't pay the bills. And so by getting someone to actually sign up for your list and getting more engagement with them, in this case, number 2 there is the actual form that you can put onto Facebook. In Constant Contact's case, this is a form you can create, which again then will give them number 3, which is the welcome letter. So again, with these systems in place, all this just happens so quickly and so seamlessly. So the question of where to ask, and I'm really amazed, and talk about confidence, right? There's a piece of sales that sometimes people don't even want to ask for the email address, and you have to ask. You do. And so you might collect email addresses at an event, speaking engagement. There's QR codes. For a restaurant, there might be something with your check. There's just all kinds of things that you can do. But again, it's really utilizing them and then following up on them very quickly. There's nothing worse than asking for someone's email address. And I know that someone may totally get this, but then, then you don't send anything out for 6 months, if ever. And then all of a sudden you send it out and they don't remember you. Just think of all the names that you've, gotten some information off the web, and then you forget about them. I know, it happens to me. So that's why I think it's so important as you collect those names, you get that I sometimes call it a one-up. If I've gone to a networking event and I've met someone, I'll send a one-up email asking permission to include them in my Victory Letter list, and then I connect that way. And and then I send it out. And again, it's what's so valuable about getting it out on a regular basis. All right, so give them reasons, right? So again, if you have an opt-in on your website, you might have some ongoing education that's related to your product. They might get something that other people don't get that aren't on your list. There's insider news, exclusive accent. You might have a free discount. Even offering it right off the bat, get $10 off your first order by subscribing. Letting them know that you send out regular updates, or you might have an ebook or white paper, etc. So keep those kind of things in mind as you go through your what do I have to get that email address, right? But stay consistent. And it's interesting that actually, again, higher unsubscribe rates happen because they don't know when to expect your content. It's just so random when it comes. So keep that in mind as well as they forget. And keep your content relevant. It's the number one reason people unsubscribe is because it has nothing to do with me. I don't understand. And also know when people do unsubscribe from your list, it's okay because they're probably not your target audience. So, I know too many people who don't send out stuff because they're afraid people are going to unsubscribe, but it's like not asking because you're afraid somebody's going to say no, right? It's not going to get you ahead in the world of business. So now, content, really important. Good content, great content equals great confidence. So this is item number 2 from our email list of what will really work for you, and it all comes back to this. No matter how great of a list, if you don't have good content, it's not going to matter. And it's going back to your target audience and discovering the content that they're hungry for by learning what they want to consume, and even more importantly, what are their pain points that you have the answers to. You have to get their attention and you have to get them engaged. Super important. So this slide is probably one of the most important ones here, I'll tell you, because it's not always about you. It's what you know and what you have access to. And so often we're in the throes of our business and we forget. But number one is you want to focus again on that relevancy, right? We got to be relevant and make sure that you know what your audience values. And I've seen business owners assume that they know what their audience want and can be completely off base. I've done it myself, right? I thought something would just be awesome and nobody cared. So do the research by asking, trying, testing. We're going to talk more about the testing piece, surveying your customers and prospects and asking them what type of information they would like to receive in their inbox. There's nothing wrong with asking. Figure out how much is enough. How much content is enough? Keep the idea of what you see there as the 400-500 rule, as I like to call it. So I repurposed the Victory Letter as a blog as well. I'll talk about that here in a few. This allows me to get fresh content onto my website at least once a week. And why blogging is so important for both your readers and Google. Google considers fresh content, right, for your search engine optimization, known as SEO. They consider it needs to be fresh content. They want to see fresh content. Google does not like any more stagnant websites that you visit once a year and do something with. They want to see consistently fresh content on your website, and for them to consider it fresh content, it needs to be at least 400 words. The 500 words is about the amount of time that your readers have to read your content. You want to put just a snippet of the content in the email with a link for them to read more on your website where your blog resides. It's getting that traffic over to your website. Then one of the easiest ways to create content is to listen to your customers, that whole listening thing, and prospects, and think about the questions that they frequently ask you. I'm going to show you a slide here on how you can convert the questions into content. Many times they're similar, and it's important to remember that you're the expert in your business or industry, and your customers typically are not. So these questions, again, what seems just like so common sense to you is not to them. And these questions can be amazing sources of content along the way. And one of the things that I do when sparked by ongoing issues that clients are commenting on during coaching sessions with me, like I'll start to hear a recurring theme. It's one of the things that I'll throw into a little document I'll talk to you about in a few called Victory Notes. And then it just reminds me that, more than one person is having this issue, and I need to talk about it out loud in my Victory Letter. That way, when I'm working on my content calendar, I have easy access to ideas that come my way. And I also love Post-it notes, and I'll show those here to you in a few as well. So don't forget also that images can be content too. It's almost really, it's mandatory today. Pictures of events, products, staff work very well, and make sure that you optimize those for mobile and that images don't dominate all of the content. It's really important as well. So here's an example of how you can repurpose. So I took a victory letter from a few weeks ago, and number one, I sent it out via email, and then I had it over on the blog, and then in social media, I sent it, like you'll see Pinterest on the bottom right-hand corner, where we take our pictures and put the quotation for the week on that. So it looks a little differently on each place, but I've taken the same content and referred to it over and over again because different people get their information sources differently. So this is how I'm able to get across all platforms at a minimum. If I'm having a busy week, at least once a week I'm getting out there and getting that information. So I hope that's helpful when you say, but then I got to do it over here and then I got to do it over here. Take the same information, shake it up a little bit, and make it a little different, but don't keep reinventing the wheel. So here's my highly technical way of getting the content to work. A couple of ideas that I use. So on the left-hand side, you'll see my whiteboard, and it's actually what I'm using to write my book right now. So as I get ideas, and a book is a pretty complex thing to be working on. So as I'm working on the outline stage of it right now and my proposal to the publisher, and so as I'm coming up with ideas, this is as complicated as it gets, is that I've just, I actually, these days, because so many ideas are flying, I'm writing them on sticky notes. If I take a walk, if I go here, go there, it's going to be on, I'm going to write it down on that sticky note to plunk it up on the board according to the chapter I want it to be in. So that's one way to do it, and you can do that with your content calendar as well. Whiteboards are amazing things. The right side of your screen, you see a little document that I have, as I mentioned before, that it sits on my desktop of my computer, and I just, mark it January through December, and we have the 12 principles I told you about in the victory circles. So I know, like May, for example, we got deeply into leadership. And so anything that had anything to do with leadership went under May, so that, again, when I sit down to to write a letter, I'm not just going, what am I going to write about this week? I've already got ideas that are starting to flow. And I also, one of the things that I do is that I keep a little moleskin notebook with me, and in the morning I meditate every morning. This time of year I meditate out in my garden, which is I just love it. This morning the moonset was unbelievable. It inspires me so much, and I write a lot of ideas down there. And the thing that I will say, if you aren't meditating, I started meditating about 3 years ago, and it just changed my life in so many ways, reducing stress, and just it's an awesome way to start a day. All right. So then you want to pay attention to what people are liking. 38% unsubscribe if it's boring. 32% send it to spam if it's irrelevant. All right, so I think we have got that message pretty clear. Remember that less is more. The days of cramming everything into a monthly newsletter are over. I want to be really clear about that. Multiple columns are over. I'll show you an example of a good-looking email here in a minute, but you want to have 3 pictures or less, 20 lines of text or less, optimally. You'll find what the good mix is for your audience. So here's the piece I was telling you about turning questions into content. So on the right-hand side, the left-hand side, you'll see the question, how do I ensure my pipes won't burst this winter, right? So a question a lot of us ask around that type of year. And so you turn it into content on the right-hand side by 5 ways to protect your pipes from freezing this winter. I would even shorten that up because I think it's too long of a subject line, and I would say 5 ways to protect your pipes. Second question, do I get to deduct mileage I drive from work and home each day, right? Content would be, again, that's a little bit long in that subject line of answers to your top 3 mileage deduction questions. I would just simply say top 3 mileage deduction questions. What's a simple way to pick the right wine? A very important question. Red or white? You might even just leave it at that, right? And then the final one, how do I get more people to show up at my events? 10 ways to sell more tickets. Again, I just leave it at that. So again, just do a brainstorm, even with your staff or your customers, et cetera. What are the questions that are asked the most that can be put into your content calendar? And with that, remember that content is that visuals and images are content too, right? 90% of the information processed by the brain is visual content. And with that, we're going to talk about branding. Oops, I got a little too finger happy there. Branding across platforms. And I'm going to say it's about 6 minutes till, and I have a lot to keep going. I'm going to run over. I just want to let you know, so I hope you can stick around, but I'll keep going as quick as I can here. And Rachel is asking in there, is it 30 minutes? No, this is actually an hour-long webinar, which again, I'm going to actually be running over a little bit because there's a lot here, but I feel like it's just so important to get your arms around these items. So really communicating across all platforms, as we've talked about, with high-quality images, using your logo. Have a good logo. A good, strong logo is worth every penny that you spend on it. Again, it's something that you confidently want to share with the world that you love it. And if you have a logo you don't like, you want to do something about that. Photos. So we all know that photos are just so important, and you want to choose the right side. You want to avoid copyright issues. Use your own photos whenever possible, or use stock images, but do it carefully. I've seen people get burned. I've been burned over the years, paid for a stock image and then got a letter saying I didn't, and had to jump through hoops to prove I did. So you just want to be really careful. 2 places that I would highly recommend is PicMonkey.com, and the second one is Canva.com. Canva.com, without a doubt, is my favorite. And it does images that you can actually put words over the images and all kinds of, I think PicMonkey does that too, but Canva does it in a lot of really cool sizes so that you can use them as your cover page on your Facebook page, etc. It's really a cool site, Canva, Canva. Check it out. All right, so create your own images, and I really have to say about this. Now, this is our Pinterest page. I just grabbed this so you could kind of see how every week, not only do I look at content for what I want to share, but like if I had a cool pic that I wanted to take or that I took, I share it. Now, just like with writing, when I started taking pictures, not so good. But the thing to remember is we're all walking around with these cool cameras and with amazing high quality. I want to look. I want to say that the top left was from my iPhone, and the top right was from my iPhone as well. But whether you're using your iPhone or your smartphone or a better camera, I have a Nikon D3200 that I'm just getting my arms around, and I have a long way to go, but I am just always in awe of some of the pictures that come out of because of it, and it helps you to capture the moments. I think that's a really important thing when you're looking at gathering content, is paying deeper attention. I know that I took a hike, did Sanitas here in Boulder on Saturday with a group of women, and it was interesting to me because there were some women in the group that I had never met before, and I kept saying, "Oh my God, look at that!" with my little phone. "Oh my gosh, look at that flower! Look at that petrified tree! That's so awesome!" And they'd be like, "I never even noticed it was there." And so opening our eyes a little wider when we're looking to create content will serve you oh so well. So I just wanted to share that a bit. And if you want to go over to Victory Circles on Pinterest, you can see a lot more. But every single picture on there, I can't think of any that I haven't done. So, and it just gets better and better all the time. Practice makes perfect, right? It increases our confidence when we're doing that. Again, have everything look similar across the platforms. Select a mobile-friendly template that matches your message, and that everything is consistent so people recognize you. Oh, there I am. They know that they've arrived at your information. Again, consistency, I think, and even in the sound of your words that you use are really important as you go. So here's these for a for a template. You want to use a single column template, fewer than 3 images, fewer than 20 lines of text, 400 words for Google to translate to a blog, no more than 3 links. We're going to talk about that in a sec, and action above the scroll line as much as possible. You want to get people to open it and engage with you. Recognized sender of who sent it, right? We want to know who it's from. We want to have a compelling subject line, good timing when it isn't, when is it received and understanding that, and then an easy to share option so that they could forward it to a friend. So who sent it? Probably one of the biggest things and one of the first things that we look at is who sent the email. And again, it's just so important that they recognize your name or the company name, who you are over on all the other social media platforms so that they can, connect the dots together. Super important. More than a third of the people will open it up because of subject line. So your subject line, again, as we were talking about in that example, are super important. So here's what an ideal email looks like. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we are at the top of the hour right at this moment. So I'm going to run over about 10 minutes, so I hope you guys can hang with me for another 10 minutes. But here is, if you want to watch the video again, I know I'm going pretty fast. You could stop the video at any time on any of these items and really look at this in detail. I want to talk about click-throughs because this is so important in your emails. Too often we can start to put too many click-throughs, and one of the things with the clicks that are in, links within your site to come over, hopefully to your website, you always want to be directing people to your website. We tend to think more is more, but less is more, as we've been talking about. 1 gets the most clicks. 2 is okay. You start to get a decline if you have 3 things to click over, and 5 or more, just people get overwhelmed. It's too many decisions to make, and they don't go forward. So really think about how can I maximum have 3 clicks that people will go to in my emails. And entice them with the teaser text, as it's called, also known as preview text. And I really like to bring this up because that's what people are seeing in their browser of their email. And so always send a preview to see what people are saying because it's usually the very beginning of the text within your email, but most email service providers, including Constant Contact, now have a little thing called preview text that you can override whatever content comes first and get besides the subject line, like here the subject line is acro yoga at 10,000 feet, you in, to the preview is aspire to higher ground. Join us for this, and it just takes one next level with teaser text. Be careful with the words that you use in your subject lines. There's spammy terms that could get you into spam filters very quickly. You never want to do all capital letters, but you see on the right-hand side things like free and click and income and dollar signs. Any kind of punctuation used multiple times over can get you in there. I really try to avoid, even though you've seen it in a few of the subject line examples that we've used, I try to avoid it as much as possible in my subject line just because I'm afraid an exclamation point might throw me into a spam filter. So you just want to be careful about that piece. Again, size matters. 30 to 40 characters max appear in mobile devices, so you want to keep that in mind. So when you're previewing your email, you want to go ahead and, I know in Constant Contact you could just do it right in the preview area of the email before you send it. You can test to see how it looks on a mobile device as well as how it looks on a desktop. Timing is everything, and if anything I said today, create that content calendar. It's so important. It'll keep you writing. This, I promise you, and it's something that's kept me going over all these years. It helps you to keep the promise that you made of either weekly, biweekly, monthly, whatever it is. It helps you to coordinate the timing with other things going on in your social channels within your business. Maybe you've got a big product launch that's going to happen in September, so you want to plan all your emails around that. Other events that are happening in your industry, really planning that. Or when it's urgent, like it's really important that we share this information right now because there's things going on in the world that really require for us to share it now. And that's where your content calendar will change a little bit as you go as well. And then looking at the day and the time when your audience is most likely to read it, here's what you can understand is that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, typically the best days of the week to send from 10 until 3, but that differs, again, depending on your industry and how regularly you send it out. I send mine out Monday morning, the worst time of the week, and but my readers are used to it, and I've been doing it for so long now, and it's really the point of my email. So it's staying with the Monday morning piece, and then just test it a lot. But when you do testing, don't send one and then change it up. Do it for a couple of months and see if it shifts. Or you could change it between lists if you have different demographics on your list. And then finally, track your results. This is critical. At the end of all of this work, if you are not paying attention to your results, it's all been a big waste of time, because it's not just about the immediate sale or something, but looking at who's clicking through and using that data to make your decisions moving forward with your marketing. And know what metrics matter. So it's your open rate, indicates who's interested. Your click-through rate shows who's engaged in taking action. Shares illustrate the content your audience finds most valuable. Opt-out gives you an opportunity to learn what's not working, or sometimes people can tell you why they're opting out. And then bounce rates helps you keep your list healthy, because a bounce is when the email's just not getting anywhere. It's not going out. So it'll help you to see what's happening in that area as well. So this is just a little bit of an overview, some of the reporting that's in Constant Contact, and just helps you to get in there. The information's there. Between Constant Contact and Google Analytics, the information is there. So, to sum all this up is to remember the 3 important elements of small business marketing, and it runs the same for nonprofits, right? At its core, it's about nurturing relationships. What's your story, and why should anyone care? And when you communicate your story on a regular basis, it will get you fans, followers, connections, however you want to call it, depending on the platform, as long as you have a compelling story to tell. And if you don't have a compelling story to tell, I would ask you why you're in business in the first place. You got to have that compelling story. It's one of the reasons in our Marketing Mastery, that's the very first thing we work on, is that compelling story to get your confident muscle going around that foundational piece. The second piece is delivering on your promise. If you say that you're going to send content that matters out once a week, do it in addition to offering an excellent product or service. And finally, get those measurable results. Pay attention to your marketing numbers. Yes, you're going to make a mistake, but that's how we build confidence. Confidence comes from making mistakes in anything we do, doing it over and over until we get it right. And the thing is that you can do this. Everything that I've shared with you here today works whether you're a business-to-business, business-to-consumer, or a nonprofit organization. Oops, going a little too fast here. Okay, so top 10 action steps. 1 is to finish that 5-minute marketing plan, right? Get your marketing plan done. Number 2 is to create a content calendar and stick to it. Really, again, it's gonna have ebbs and flows. You're gonna stick stuff in, take stuff out, but overall stick to it. Make the time to make this a habit. Think of all the things you have really good habits in, and how much confidence you have around them. Review your results and make your changes accordingly. Always be building your list. Always. It's just so important. Understand the tools that you need for your particular business. And what I will tell you is that while I see some things foundational like email marketing, social media, different platforms, it depends on where your target audience is hanging out. Now, honestly, if your target audience are people in their 80s or 90s, email marketing isn't as important because they're not on email as much, though that's changing, which has been a very cool thing to watch. Create engagement. Don't make it one-way conversations. You need that two-way conversation in today's marketing world. Number 8 is to watch for the recording of this webinar via email that I'm going to be sending to you. And listen to it again. Share it with people on your team that you think will actually, that when you're all on the same page together, there might be some people that are fighting more marketing or whatever it is, but when you can bring your team together to understand some of these principles that I'm sharing with you today, I just highly recommend it. So that'll either get out today or tomorrow, depending on when we get the recording back to us, but we'll try to do it as quick as possible. And number 9 is I wanted to share with you our Never Ending Sales Funnel program. It's just a $29 program that helps you maybe take another step without spending too much money. You'll be able to full-on do the 5-minute marketing plan. There's 100 ways to ignite your marketing plan within that. And then there's a whole video on blending your marketing and sales, because the important thing with your marketing is that it's got to flow into your sales as well, or it's all for naught, right? That's such an important piece. So if you go to victorycircles.com/resources, there's more information about that for you as well. And I'm just getting too quick on the draw here. We also have, I've mentioned it a few times, our Marketing Mastery. I highly recommend that you try out the $29 program first. This is a 12-month program, and before you make that kind of commitment, see how you like working with us, me, and it's just a comprehensive program. The results have been phenomenal, and I won't take too much of your time because we've run over here, but just we get into every element we've talked about here today and so much more. Even from discovering your why and what your story is, getting that marketing budget figured out, et cetera. We have 2 monthly group coaching calls that we do together. It's more of a Q&A. And again, that's over at victorycircles.com/resources. And I have one more exciting thing to share with you really quick. First of all is a quote from Gandhi, that action expresses priorities. This is actually my theme quote for the year, because if what do we get done are the things that have the most priority to us. So I hope that marketing becomes that for your business. And then finally, there I am again. What I'd love to do with these webinars is to offer to 5 people only, because I can't offer this to everyone who's on this webinar today, but to the first 5 people who share with me one action item that you're going to take over on my email. So you have to email it to Cheri, Cheri, at businessvictories.com. Again, that's Cheri at businessvictories.com. I will give you a 30-minute intensive strategy session and really give you some, like, if you're just struggling with this, how do I move forward? What's my best step forward? We get a lot done in 30 minutes. I promise you that. So again, just email that over to Cheri at businessvictories.com, and I will be happy to give you that session. One thing I will tell you, I'm heading out on vacation on Saturday. Whoop, whoop. Could we hear a yay-hoo for that? Because I am ready for it. So I won't be able to do it till the week of July the 5th, but just email me, and then I'll email you a link to my calendar, and we'll get you on the calendar for when I get back the week of July 5th. So that concludes our conversation here today. I am so delighted to have spent this time with you. I would love your feedback, comments, etc. if you want to email me with those as well. I hope to hear from you and watch you build the confidence to market your way to success and victory, whatever that looks like for you. Thanks so much for being with us today, and bye for now. Thanks, everybody.